Usually around 7 o'clock is when we start, and we start giving a bit more of the updates on the caucus. But we like to kind of start just from a quick rundown on the get-go. And if it's okay with folks that are here present too, that are in the executive team, I'll get started with the story, and then if Phil could add to it in case I missed something. But so Abigail, and for anyone else that is the first time here or that would like to know more about it, this is the Indigenous Peoples Caucus for the Texas Democratic Party. So we are, in the process of becoming one of the official caucus from the Texas Democratic Party for this next convention, which will be happening in El Paso. Shout out to Ana this summer for the gathering. It will be the first time that the Texas Democratic Party will do a land acknowledgement, and then it will, incorporate Native American Indigenous folks and a caucus that represents them into the Democratic Party. I tell folks that although we are with the Democratic Party, I don't think everyone here identifies as Democrat. We mostly are here because the Republican Party does not want a caucus, or at least there has not been intentions around it. So we're working within the system. Often I refer to it as the water that we swim in. But yeah, our intention is to start this caucus, make it official this summer, and then start from there, building our platform and advocating for that. The main intention with it would be the policy that we're trying to pass. The platform will be connected to the policy related to Native American Indigenous folks in Texas. And I often like to mention that we chose it was a long process, but we chose the name Indigenous People Caucus. But there was there was a lot of debate on which one would it be. But yeah, as of right now, they have met for 6 years. This will be 2024 will be our 6th year as a caucus. I joined just 2 years ago. I mean, a year and a half ago. Anything I'm missing, Al, Kristen, or Alicia now?
Actually, I have a question. Actually, I have two questions, but one relates directly to what you're talking about, Ro. The caucus has been in some form in existence for 6 years. Has this caucus ever been officially recognized by the Democratic Party?
Yep, good question. From what I know, and from what we gather on the convention, is that the Democratic Party recognized them as a it's a process, right? To become an official caucus, I believe you have to meet at 3 conventions, and the 3rd convention it becomes official. The Texas Democratic Party provided a space, and it provided them a time slot, and it named them on the schedule, but it never put them on anything related to the platform, the rules, the committees, etc.
Just curious. That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure, like, that something hadn't changed over time. Or on the other hand, you had two members of the executive board were on the platform committee last convention. So.
Which is a good reminder for folks to let you know that starting in January, we're going to begin checking on precinct chairs, right? And making sure that, not only those are filled out, but also checking on who is Native American Indigenous from the precinct chairs. I believe this is the convention where it changes to congressional seats. Is that right?
Yes. So I guess I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, I guess the leadership that's elected at this convention will be, from different areas, basically. So I assume that a lot of people that now hold leadership positions will no longer may not any longer be available or be eligible in those congressional districts. So that may bring around a lot of change.
That's right, lots to come. And I think you mentioned you had 2 questions, but yes, I kind of alluded a little bit to the timeline for folks that in July, it will be July, right? Am I correct? In July is the convention, or is it June?
Hey, I don't remember now.
There you go. Well, this summer. Oh, thank you.
It is June. June.
There you go. Well, June will be a bit of the timeline. that's when we become an official caucus. But until then, we're still building support. That's why we have this open forum meeting style, where we do have a working committee, and I believe soon it'll become two of them. Right now we have the bylaws committee, and soon we'll have officially the events planning committee. But yeah, we're building right now relationships and growing. The intention is to try to invite as many Native American Indigenous folks into the space for the July convention, and we will be streaming it. That's something that, you know, is really a big intention of us, to make sure that we're sharing it for anyone that cannot attend. I understand El Paso is a little bit far for folks. And if you are coming in, if you don't mind just maybe sharing on the chat where you're calling from, for anyone that is new in the call, your pronouns if possible. But yeah, hey Clayton.
Good evening.
I don't know how other people are arranging, or if anybody else is arranging ways to get there. I've heard two different things in this area, which is Northeast Texas, sort of northeast of Dallas, well, even south. But one is the Gregg County Democrats are talking about renting a bus and having, you know, a chartered bus to drive folks from this area out there. And I think there's like 50 something seats, and the cost round trip will be $150 from what I understand. So if anybody lives in this area and would like to do that, you can contact the Gregg County Democrats. And also there was some talk at the Rural Democrats meeting a couple of months ago, and somebody came up with the idea of maybe getting a train, actually kind of chartering a train to go out there. And, you know, I don't know how feasible that is or if that'll actually happen, but that sounds like a neat, you know, it'll be kind of like a party train almost if it does happen. But time is marching on, so.
Good to know. I wonder if maybe gearing towards the convention, we should even create a channel, right? To maybe check where people who can ride share with. I know Dallas often tries to plan things, you know, in group. But last I spoke with Martin, the Tejano Democrats from Tarrant County and Dallas were hoping to get a bus. And there's a few other groups that are trying to go too. So I think if anyone wants to, you know, if it's closer for folks to come to the FW, you can always ride with us the 9 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a long trip.
Just FYI, Southwest has flights available to El Paso at this point.
Would that be out of Love Field, Clayton?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm seeing flights round trip probably below 300 total.
If you would, I
cost.
would wait. I would definitely wait on purchasing those until you get like the Southwest email, because you know how they do those deals for like $69, $59, $49, and El Paso is usually like one of the cheaper flights, especially if you're in Texas.
Good point. Forgot about those.
There's always Spirit Airline if you're feeling adventurous.
I
Or
think
American,
I'll
if
stick
you're
with
feeling like
Southwest.
pricing. There you go.
I did fly Spirit once, and it was probably the bumpiest ride I ever took. And they just charge you for your original bag, like outside of a purse. You're still like, it was $35 to check one bag.
A lot of airlines are going that route now, though. So I guess it's better to pay a cheap airfare and $35 than an expensive airfare and $35 or $50. Or I heard somebody was charging $60 per bag. So
That seems criminal.
Yeah, I guess more and more people are going to be traveling European style with a backpack.
Yeah, that was my one free bag, a backpack.
That's it.
And it is 7:01, so here's where I ask folks, if you don't mind, maybe sending a message to anyone that you think should be here, anyone that you saw here last time that is not here yet. I myself, I'm putting a message on the Facebook and the Instagram right now, so I'll be out for 1 second. Anyone else plans for Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving?
So at every job I've had, I always volunteer to work on Thanksgiving. I'll mention it more later, but I work in different mental health settings. So this year I'll be working Denton County's crisis line on Thanksgiving, getting that holiday pay. So that's what I'll be doing.
I have absolutely zero plans.
I wonder if on Facebook we could share some of our favorite holiday recipes that are especially if you have any indigenous recipes um or foods that would be worth sharing with the group. Because I know I've seen down here in Texas, you can buy Minnesota wild rice. I don't know if anybody would be interested, but I'd be happy to share that recipe. But I'd love to see other people's recipes.
You said you'd be happy to share the recipe for what?
For Minnesota wild rice, it's harvested by the Anishinaabe tribe, and there's two different cultivars. There's one that's a little bit lighter in color, and that is the native wild rice. And then you can get one that's a little bit darker. That's the what do you call it? More of like a business cultivar. And so my mom will get at the farmer's market, she'll get the Anishinaabe wild rice. And it's a real simple recipe. You just cook it with chicken stock and you know, things like celery or carrots. And what I like about it is it's curly. So it's not like it's like Texas wild rice where it's a bit longer or thicker. It takes almost 4 hours for it to fully cook, and it's not done until you can see that it's curly.
That's really cool. I've never heard about that, but would definitely be down. Can you
Sounds
get it?
easy sounds easy to cook with a visual aid there.
Yeah, I'll share it on Facebook. It'll be fun.
Can you get that rice here in Texas? Or like, do you have to get it certain places?
I've seen little tiny boxes at HEB. And I've also seen a little bit larger bags that have a loon on it. But I'll try to get the name of it because there's a specific name that you could probably search. Like if you search online and see if HEB or your local whatever grocery store you go to, if they have that type of rice, because there's a name for it. It's like a water, I guess, isn't all rice a watergrass? Maybe they're all watergrasses. I don't know.
All right. Well, I hear from Kristen an initiative to start sharing recipes on the Facebook. And I think that's one of the goals, right? We want to make sure that in order to create that safe space, we gotta be brave. So I love when Steven is in because I'm always like, we gotta be Steven brave. So folks, if you can maybe share on the Facebook from time to time. I saw there was an event in Austin, right, Taylor? I meant to share it, but it was earlier today and the event was yesterday. I think it was a powwow in Austin. But I often get a lot of event notifications from San Antonio and Houston. So I'll do my best to try to share those often. But I think it's important for us to try to create that network in Texas because, you know, we got to stay strong.
Rojo, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tara.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, yeah, the Austin powwow was yesterday, and I didn't even think to share it to the group. I apologize, but we'll definitely do that next time.
Yeah, that actually sounded good, but same thing. You know, I woke up in the morning and saw it. And I was like, oh, that's quite a commute. It'll be over by the time I get there. But Rojo, in terms of you know, we've talked about announcements and bringing people in. And I really like the kind of new way we do the announcements with the pictures. It's really attention grabbing. And I know it's hard to get things. Two things. Would it be possible to get those out earlier? And would it be possible to make them available in a way that we could actually share not just the announcement of the meeting, but the, you know, the actual info graphic that you have with people that we think might be interested?
Absolutely. I think I see it as we're a work in progress, like everything, right? Like a project. And I think it's often little things that we're putting there together. But I believe that Taylor, Kristen, and I will be meeting this week or next week so that we can kind of work out the schedule a little bit for next year. We were testing this new way of doing general meetings where we put a topic very broad so that our speaker can have the freedom to, you know, make it as broad or as short as, I don't know if you all remember Steven, but he was like, do we need to fight? So I think it's important, right, to kind of have a bit of that freedom. But yes, absolutely. I think what I can commit to is in the future, just putting those earlier, even better, right? Once we meet up with Taylor and Kristen, we'll have a schedule for at least the first 3 months of the year. So I can create those early on. I will say that sometimes it's a bit of complications of making sure that we have a speaker and everything confirmed. And Martin did share stuff with me, but it was just us having the links. But from what I heard from you was two things, having the graphic early and having a link that is added to the graphic. So maybe like a short link, we can work on that. That way folks can just kind of put the, you know, the bit.ly indigenous IPC, right? And they're able to sign up. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. You know, just something that like we could either email or message, you know, add to a message to somebody to say, hey, you know, we're doing a lot of good stuff. Come on out and maybe give us a listen. Thanks.
No, thank y'all. And I see on the comments already a resource. I love offerings. So any other offerings, please add them there, folks. Yes, with that, I'm going to pass it down to Kristen to kind of get us started a little bit. And I will say that we do not have any speaker yet prepared for the next year, but also Martin hasn't, you know, like last time we just kind of created topics. They felt very, you know, they felt really well. Like they worked out really well. I think we chose fight, pride, and healing or heal. So I think if you all have any ideas for topics, we would love to hear those. We would love to know those. And if you have any speakers that you would love to invite and have here, I encourage you to also share those. But yeah, Kristen, go ahead.
Did you see my chat message to you, Rojo, just before I move on?
Yes, I did. For the agenda,
Okay.
correct?
Yes, may I make this announcement?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'd like to announce, please welcome Rojo as the new chair and Taylor Rojo can you please say your last name for me, Rojo? Pronounce it.
Meishuero.
Meishuero. So Rojo Meishuero and Taylor Trevino as the new vice chair of the Indigenous Peoples Caucus of the Texas Democratic Party to fill the current unexpired term effective Sunday, November 5th, 2023, approved by the Executive Committee. It is with regret that we announce the resignation of Ira Summer Hernandez from chair effective Sunday, November 5th, 2023, approved by the executive committee. We thank Summer for her hard work and we wish her all the best in her future endeavors. The executive committee is seeking persons interested in serving as legislative officer and social media officer. So please direct inquiries to IPCTX Dems-officers@googlegroups.com. And I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. So if anyone is interested in those roles, we'd love you to reach out to us.
And I will say, folks, that it's all love really here. So Irasema and Sema is still on our Facebook and our Slack. So if folks want to reach out to them, give them some love. They're still there. I believe they may be moving. I don't know if they already moved out of Texas, but you know, it's I mean, if y'all have been keeping track of Sema for a while, you know, they ran for Senate. And I think, you know, having someone, especially from Native American indigenous community, go for that, it's just commendable. So, you know, giving some love to Sema. Awesome. Well, with that, I know also with Taylor, we have a bit of an update since in a way, Taylor just finished their term with the legislative role. I don't know if you want to go for it, Taylor, and then we can go ahead and introduce the speaker.
Hi, yeah. So just to give a quick legislative update, the fourth special session just wrapped up at the Ledge. So there were two main issues in this session, so both border and immigration and education. So a vouchers bill that has been on Abbott's agenda, and he's been trying to get this passed for since January, failed again. There was bipartisan, I was gonna say support, but I guess I don't know, bipartisan like agreement that like this is not a good idea. Creating this voucher system would take away funding for public schools and divert it to private and charter schools. And people across the state said this is not good. So that's definitely a win, something to celebrate. However, on the other side, I don't remember the bill names specifically or the numbers because there's been so many this year. But unfortunately, I believe the House and Senate did pass two bills. So one that would dedicate funding to the border region. So for wall and security and all that kind of bad stuff, I think about $1.5 billion, as well as one that would basically allow any police officer, any judge to detain people who they suspect of crossing the border into the United States illegally and just deport them. So any police officer could stop someone, any judge could order them to be deported without really looking into everything and sort of avoiding the whole federal immigration process. So these two bills haven't been signed into law yet, but they very likely will be soon. And there are organizations like the ACLU who are going to sue because that second bill I was talking about is unconstitutional and illegal in so many ways. So at least there's that. But for the time being, definitely dangerous for our immigrant and Latino communities because just the profiling that it could lead to and the fear and all of that. Yeah, Rojo, I just saw your comment as before. Yeah, so that's the update on the Ledge. I don't know if there's any talks now about a fifth special session, but I hope not, and hoping that the holidays are at least a good little while off, a little break from more bad bills coming out of the Ledge. But yeah. Sorry, Al, just saw your hand.
The two things that I've seen, and you know, again, nothing really official, I don't think, but well, one is as part of the immigration bill, there is a part of that law says that you can be, I think it was $1,000 fine, maybe, or a charge for transporting, quote unquote, basically giving anybody who was undocumented a ride. So, basically what that's asking you to do is every time you offer somebody a ride, to ask them to see their identification. The other thing is that pretty quickly after the bill, after the non-voucher bill version of the bill passed with the amendment to take the vouchers out, the governor said that he's going to keep. He said we may be here until January, February, March. Now, I don't know if that's an idle threat, but he did sort of start the first special session right after the last one ended, the same day. So, I mean, it just is pretty bizarre, the amount of money that's being spent to get this bad legislation, or attempt to get this bad legislation passed.
Yeah, you're right. And I want to say, and I apologize for not having all of this down, but the bill that was related to, or maybe it was the same one, honestly, and it's so confusing because there's so many bad bills. Something about like the smuggling charge, like creating that additional offense for people in the fine. I think that was passed through one chamber, but not both. But and I'm looking through my different update emails to see. But yeah, it's dangerous all around and not great.
I had to take a deep breath for that one. Thank you all for sharing. And if you don't mind, please share more if you have any of those updates, Taylor, and anyone else here on the Facebook and on our socials. We haven't been as active simply because we are still working on inner works and finishing our bylaws and getting everything set up. But I do want to encourage folks to still use the platforms that we have to continue sharing this information and any call to actions for us to join in and be plugged in. Taylor is located in the Austin area. I'm located in the DFW area, so we would love to even attend any of these events if possible, if there's any. I don't know if you would like to just briefly mention something too about what's happening right now with the statement, Taylor. I know it's not official, but we do want to share with folks kind of our update with also the IPC, and there's the Muslim caucus for the Democratic Party, who is putting out statement too, which was happening right now with Palestine.
Yeah, so something that I've been working on is a draft of a statement for this caucus to put out, basically calling for a ceasefire and just standing in solidarity with Palestine. Obviously, our heart goes out to everyone, Israeli, Palestinian, Muslim, Jewish, whoever, like any loss of life and any type of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia is horrific, and like hoping to I don't know, see that like reduced going forward. But I do think that it is important for us, and I think a lot of us agree that as representing Indigenous people in the state of Texas, that it's important that we speak out against this, against the genocide that is going on against Palestinians right now, and just to use our platform however we can. So that's something that I'm working on. There is a resolution that the Muslim caucus has put out that, for example, Austin, the Human Rights Commission passed as a recommendation to City Council as sort of a good template for language to use. So definitely curious on people's thoughts, or maybe like reach out to me directly if you have any thoughts about that or want to contribute, but just something that we are working on.
Thank you so much, Taylor. It takes a village, it takes a barrio. So please, folks, reach out to Taylor. We have the Slack and then we have Facebook, right? Awesome. With that, I'm going to pass it to then Martin. Martin, do you want to introduce our speaker for tonight?
Hey, hello, everybody. I'm sorry I'm late, but our awesome speaker tonight is Madam, if you would like to be called Madam, Ruth Thunderhawk. I haven't read your bio. I'm sorry, Ruth, but she will be speaking in regards to healing. And Ruth, go for it.
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ruth Thunderhawk. I use they, she pronouns. I live in the DFW area, specifically Denton, Texas. I have been working in the mental health field for a couple of years now. And while I'm introducing myself, I might as well share a nice little announcement. I currently work with Denton County MHMR on our mobile crisis outreach team. However, I just accepted a position as the new crisis response specialist for Texas Native Health. So I will be focusing a lot of my work on helping the community with crisis response, educating them on the importance of mental health, as well as assisting with the Project Beacon human trafficking awareness grant. So lots of exciting things happening. For some of my friends in this Zoom call, this is the first time y'all are hearing this, so hello. But with that, I will get started. Oh, thank you, Rojo. I appreciate it. My birthday was November 7th. I just turned 25, so the quarter century crisis is finally happening. So, alrighty. So Martin reached out to me asking me to talk about healing. And with this topic, we could go many different directions, you know. Healing means something different to everybody. It means something different to me, means something different to y'all. I just kind of want to take a moment to take it back to basics. The dictionary defines healing as the process of becoming sound, kind of like safe and sound, or healthy again. Kind of like how healing means something different to everybody, so does healthy. So I just kind of want to take some time today to talk about how we can heal our community and help each other grow, kind of discuss what healing can look like for ourselves. And, you know, I'm a huge mental health advocate, so in any way I can, if I can bring mental health into it, I will. I also want to talk about getting over the stigmas that exist within our community, as well as society, to allow us to receive help, to welcome help, to find a right path for healing. All right. So why is healing so important? A couple things I want to highlight is, and I can definitely say this for myself, but you know, if any other people in this group have similar experiences, I encourage y'all to speak up and share your experiences if you'd like. I will have a couple of moments within this presentation to where I would like for y'all to share if you want to, of course, you know, comfortable, but you'll kind of see I'm very much a discussion-based speaker. I think that's the best ways that we can learn is through interaction. All right. So within our community, we find high rates of generational trauma for many different reasons. Our community also faces high rates of depression, anxiety, PTSD. A lot of it goes unreported, and a lot of times goes overlooked. Some people may come up and say, you know, why is that? Well, just to give an example and give a little bit of perspective as to why these rates are so high, I'm going to use myself and my family as an example. So I'm Northern Cheyenne and Sichuan Lakota. Hey, Stephen. You know, I'm not supposed to be in North Texas. My family was born and raised on the Rosebud Sioux Reservation, as well as the Northern Cheyenne Reservation of Lame Deer, Montana. Why the heck are we in Texas, you know? Away from our homelands. My grandpa made the decision to leave his homelands to come here to North Texas, not by choice, but more so because he had to. You know, he had 12 kids to raise, and it was either stay at home, connecting with our culture, you know, being close to ceremony, all of our aunts, uncles, cousins, or, you know, join this program and be able to find opportunities to feed my kids and, you know, help them with education and job opportunities and just kind of seeing what's out there. That was not an easy decision, as y'all can imagine. Along with that came a lot of change, culture shock, as well as other hard decisions that he had to make to survive. My grandpa joined the Army. He's a World War II veteran. He was on Normandy Beach, which for those of you who have seen Saving Private Ryan, you'll know it was crazy on that beach. I bring all this up just to kind of give an example of what generational trauma is and how it can manifest itself into different generations. So grandpa, relocation act affected by that. Veteran, he's also a residential school survivor, which is a whole other conversation. Anyways, because of that, he had as you can imagine, a lot of healing to do. But of course, with all the things he had going on, he had to focus on being a dad, providing for his family. And he unfortunately didn't have the privilege to focus on that healing. And he had to learn a new life in a brand new environment. So with that, my dad, who is a son, felt some of the after effects of the things that my grandpa went through. And one thing about generational trauma is that it can pass on through generations. So here I am, my father's daughter, third generation in Dallas. I don't know my language. I am not as connected to my tribe as I wish I was.
Might go there and get that one full one. I don't know how many of them are full, and give them a bag for all this.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know my language as much as I thought I did. I haven't visited my home reservations as much as I would like to, but there's a lot of feelings of displacement, not feeling native enough, all of that, it could bring up a lot of emotions. So, excuse me. With all of that, I kind of wanted to talk about what healing for yourself can look like despite all these struggles that someone of my identity, as well as others, may go through. So as a mental health clinician, one of the things I always encourage for my clients to do is to engage in self-care, which anyone who's on social media nowadays knows that self-care can look like many different things. Most of the way that capitalism makes self-care looks like to us is face masks, buying all this stuff to make you feel good. I mean, sure, that can be a good temporary problem, but is it really addressing the items and things in your life that actually need self-care and attention? Some ways that I find healing for myself is reconnecting to my culture. I know Rojo mentioned earlier, and please correct me if I said your name wrong, but one of the ways that I reconnected to my culture was back when I was in college. I am an alum of the University of North Texas, and the UNT Native American Student Association was one of the first Native groups that I was a part of. And outside of my own family, I was able to reconnect with other Native students who were also facing similar challenges that I was, reconnecting, learning your language, learning more about your identity and who you are. So that was really healing for me. Another way that I heal for myself is staying in community. Outside of my job, I like to stay busy, hang out with my friends and loved ones, stay involved within different organizations. I would definitely like to get more involved with this organization, but outside of here, I sometimes volunteer for like different human trafficking and domestic violence organizations, just because I like to give back to the community sometimes. I'm very involved in MMIW Texas Rematriate as a member, but giving back to the community, keeping busy, mingling with other people, those are ways that I heal myself. So I want to open the floor a little bit, just to spark a little bit of discussion. What does healing look like for you guys? What are some self-care tactics that you guys use to help you on your healing journey? Feel free to say it out loud or share it in the chat. I'll give you all a couple minutes.
I can go ahead and start. I think that, I just wanted to provide a perspective on self-care. And you mentioned the face masks. And, I did go into that at first, being like, oh yeah, self-care. But then, you're also feeding into capitalism. But at the same time, I do see the other side of it, it's as a form of giving you self-love, how much time of the day do you actually put into yourself? And, I do put that time into my skincare routine, which is one way. But another way in which I relate to you is, looking into your history. And for me, that's really talking to my parents or my uncles and aunts and asking them, how was life growing up? Because, me being born and raised here well, I'm in Nashville right now, but being born and raised in Dallas, it's definitely taken me away from my roots. And so that's just how I find a way to like get back to where my family comes from.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing, Abby.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, and whoever set up the reminder for the text, that's like pretty great, or else I would have missed it.
Absolutely. I saw that too. I was like, okay, come on, organized. Let's see. Misty Anders Clemens, once again, correct me if I said it wrong, wrote down, I love meditation and exercise. Exercise is always a great way to get your self-care in. It's a great way to release stress. For me, running is one way I like to do it. So yeah, I definitely resonate with that. Rojo put down, for me, is the water, the rivers, and the ocean really helps me heal. I absolutely love that. Random fun fact, I went to the ocean for the first time this year, and I completely understand that. So much fun, such a good experience. Misty. Okay. Stephen, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah. First of all, hi. Thank you for being here and doing this. And what's up to everyone? I don't get to see everyone as much as I would usually like to. And also, I'm turning on my camera, but I'm in a room with horrible lighting right now. So, but yeah, as far as mental health things that I like to do, one thing that I'm trying to be really big on the last couple of years, and that I want to put out there for members of our indigenous community, is to remember that throughout time, like thousands and thousands of years, indigenous people lived certain ways according to the seasons. And that's something that I'm really, really trying to do. So like, as we're coming up on the winter months, I did this last year. I'm going to do it again this year. You would think of it as before there was heating and before there was, this and that you pretty much, you stayed in with just like you and, your people in your TP and your home, and you kind of go inside. And for me, that's really good for my mental health. You go inside and you're just taking care of yourself and your people in your house. And then you prepare yourself. And then as you come out into the spring, you're recharged, you're ready with the new life to go out there again, go out, be among the community, help. And then the summer, at least for my people, the Lakota people, is ceremony time. So for myself, I try to remember that also. The summer, I'm preparing for ceremony, taking part in ceremony, doing things like that. And then in the fall time, again, is all about community. And so right now, you'll see me like trying to be involved in as much as I can, involve helping community, helping society, helping in all the ways that I can, because it's, the good weather, you're harvesting, and you could think of it as, literally harvesting food or harvesting mentally, spiritually, doing those kind of things. And you're kind of preparing because you know that you're going to slow down in accordance with the seasons come the winter. And so it may feel like you're getting exhausted towards the end of the fall. Again, the same thing in the spring, but you have those certain times of breaks, instead of trying to just go with this capitalistic mindset of just push, or another mindset of me. I think you're going for your mental health, going with the seasons, and you can get that good mix of relaxing and community and family, and get a good balance of all of it. So that's what I try to do in my personal life, and just want to put that out there as maybe something to start for others to start looking into as well.
Absolutely. Bringing it back to traditions. Thank you, Stephen. Also, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Clayton shared with us, healing for me is best done with listening to nice, calming music. Also, having people to talk to helps a lot. Oh, absolutely. In my work as a case manager for crisis clients, one thing I encourage if they're going through like having a rough day or just like, having a hard time, I always recommend making a playlist full of like songs that make you feel good or positive songs to kind of help you get out of that rough time. Music is really healing, and sometimes people underestimate the power of music. Alrighty, thank you all so much for sharing. With that, I'm going to move on to the second pillar that I would like to talk about. So the first pillar, I talked about what does healing look like for us, and this next one, I kind of want to go over getting over stigmas to receive help from others. Once again, I would like to open up the floor just to kind of get an understanding of how much you guys know, and just so I can know how much I can educate you guys on our current mental health system and what's good, what's bad, what's working, what's not, and what we can do to improve it. So if you have a loved one or friend that had a mental health crisis right now, like let's say in the middle of this meeting, a loved one called you right now and told you they were having suicidal thoughts and wanted to end their life, what would y'all do? I just want to kind of get an idea of what y'all would do to help your loved one in that situation.
I think that the first thought that for me comes to mind as like a reaction is just trying to stay with them on the phone for as long as I can. But other than that, the next action, I'm not sure.
Clayton shared, I personally would call them and give them a friendly ear to talk to their issues and be a good listener. I like that. It's really good. Really good. Anybody else?
I was going to say the same. I don't always know what to say, or I've never been
Mhm.
in a situation where I've had to deal with that. But kind of like what Clayton said, I would just try to listen and try to keep them talking if they wanted to.
Mhm. Thank you, Kristen. Stephen said, ask them to talk and ask them how far they have gone into planning. That's good, Stephen. That's actually what I was about to go into. And Richard, find the issue, talk through that, and increase intervention if needed. Richard got it right on the dot. Okay, so I want to talk to you guys about local crisis lines and 988. So within the past year, you know how we have 911 for basic emergencies. For the suicide crisis hotline, it's a long 800 number. I have trouble remembering things. Y'all might too, So 988 is just a similar watered down version of the suicide crisis hotline number. If you ever come across a loved one who is experiencing suicidal thoughts and you feel like they maybe have a danger of themselves and you think, excuse me, they could benefit from talking to somebody or possibly, receiving a higher level of care, I would always encourage y'all to call the 988 number if you are able to get a chance. One thing I want to touch base on is some of y'all gave an example of talking through your friend on the phone and, kind of seeing what's going on. I would also encourage y'all to encourage your friend to call the 988 number, but also like ask where their location is. Yes, thank you, Kristen. That is awesome. Ask where your friend's location is. For example, if I had a loved one who called me telling me they're having suicidal thoughts, if they were in the area, if you can, of course, everyone's life situation is different, but maybe trying to be there with them physically if possible, because sometimes that can help, or seeing if like, like family or family member or friend can go be there with them as well. Suicidal thoughts, planning suicide are different. However, when someone is using mind-altering substances and has access to a weapon, they can make spur of the moment decisions. Yeah, good point, Stephen. Absolutely.
We need
yeah.
another gondola with y'all bring. We need 2 bags.
For here,
Out here.
Okay. So I just kind of want to take a moment to kind of talk about that. I also want to take a moment to kind of talk about your local mental health authority. So like I mentioned earlier, I currently work for the Mobile Crisis Outreach Team at Denton County MHMR. Part of our job is our county has a 24/7 crisis line with our center that people can come and reach out to. And if they find themselves or a loved ones going through a mental health crisis and they need a risk of harm assessment or somebody to talk to them to help them through their crisis, they call us. We go out into the field. We talk to them, try and de-escalate the situation and help them get the appropriate level of care that they need. Sometimes that is outpatient services, so like getting counseling, meeting with a case manager once a week, which is what I do, but helping them on that path of recovery. Sometimes if the mental health crisis is so escalated, they need inpatient services where they have 24/7 wraparound services, like in a mental health hospital or a behavioral health unit in a hospital. We recommend that as well. But one thing I would highly encourage for everybody here in this meeting is to find out who your local mental health authority is in your area. I have a couple of examples here, just because I know some people in this call live in the DFW area. So for people who live in Denton County, so, Denton, as well as like Frisco, Aubrey, Little Elm, all that, your local mental health authority is Denton County MHMR. For Dallas, you guys have TransitCare and MetroCare. For people who are in Tarrant County, you guys have Tarrant County MHMR. And for these local mental health authorities, each of them has a crisis line. I would encourage y'all to know what this crisis line is, maybe save it in your phone or have it like on your fridge or somewhere you can access it at all times. That way, if you have a loved one in your area who ever finds themselves in a crisis and you think would benefit from like a risk of harm assessment to be done in person as soon as possible, I would encourage y'all to always have that resource steady. With that, I would like to close with a couple of more things. With that being said, mobile crisis outreach teams and suicide crisis hotlines save lives. I just want to reemphasize the importance of supporting laws, regulations, and bills that support mental health, support these centers, and continue to provide funding for these resources. This is my first meeting with you guys, but I use my platform and my career to speak on the importance of these services and to help them keep going. So I would be more than willing to assist in educating the community about the importance of supporting local mental health authorities as well as initiatives. That way, we can continue to see our community thrive and grow into the future. And one last thing I want to say is suicide prevention looks different for everybody. Whenever people hear suicide prevention, they may think, oh, well, that just means telling your loved ones to not kill themselves. It's a lot deeper than that. Suicide prevention looks like connecting back to your culture, finding community, having access to basic resources as simple as food, housing, financial resources. Suicide prevention looks like staying in community, staying connected to your family. So I just want to close with that thought. What does suicide prevention look like for y'all? What does suicide prevention look like for your community? And how can you better assist your community in the everlasting lifelong journey of healing? And with that, I want to thank Martin for this opportunity to speak to y'all tonight about this topic I am super passionate about. And I'm looking forward to getting more involved in this organization in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth, for that encouraging words and everything that you just stated to help us understand healing and how we can help and prevent anybody trying to commit suicide. Thank you for that. And I will give it back to Rojo.
Yes, if folks could go mute with me and join me. Thank you so much, Ruth.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, cousin.
And I did post a question on the chat, Ruth, in terms of a parent.
Absolutely. I know that Denton County MHMR has a loss team to where we assist people who family members and loved ones of people who have recently experienced a suicide loss. So I can definitely get in touch with you and talk to you more about that after this meeting.
I've got a question if it's all right to ask. How do you handle, like, let's say you have an older family member. I know in some of the older generations, mental health is less common for them to reach out to. How might you encourage them to reach out for help, especially if that's not something that they might be interested in?
I definitely understand and resonate with this. I have family members where I have also tried to have that conversation, re-emphasizing the importance of reaching out for help, letting them know it's okay to ask for help, kind of battling those stigmas. But it can be really difficult because some of our loved ones who are in the older generations grew up in a society where, you know, it was looked down upon to ask for mental health help. It was looked down upon to say that you're depressed or say that you're struggling. So one thing I would encourage is to continue to have patience with this loved one and, you know, continue to encourage them to seek mental health services, even if it looks like just having a consultation with a mental health clinician or talking to a provider about what services they offer. It doesn't mean they have to book an appointment and, like, you know, go straight into, like, I don't know, therapy or like a group session, but just kind of learning more about what those services look like. So I would encourage you to take baby steps with it. Little bit of self-disclosure, but this is something I have tried with a family member. And for me, well, for that family member, it was just something that, you know, some people are just really stubborn and like they don't want to receive the help, but just encouraging them and letting them know, well, whenever you're ready, the help is there. So just kind of running them up the resources.
Yep, I have a question. So as rather than just like on the one-on-one level, but like as a political group or as a community, what do you think we should be doing or could be doing to help kind of, is there like legislation that needs to be passed? Is there things being done the right way or not the right way, like on a higher level in the state of Texas?
I would say as far as on a higher level, I would say it just comes down to funding. One thing that in my years working in this field, I have learned is too often at these community mental health clinics, as well as, you know, other private institutions or behavioral health units, is that too many times the staff are experiencing financial situations to where they're not able to pay their clinicians as much as they should be. They are understaffed due to this issue. They're not being able to get as much resources as they could be getting due to the state of Texas cutting funding for these programs. So it's something that I feel like every mental health clinician can like preach to the choir about is encouraging the state of Texas to invest more in mental health services.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I was, because one thing that I noticed, and that I don't know if everybody here notices, but anytime there's like a mass shooting or anything like that in Texas, they'll say, well, this isn't a gun crisis, this is a mental health crisis. And but then instead of more funding being added, funding is cut. Or the same thing with like with fentanyl death, they'll push it, but instead of wanting to do anything to stop the crisis and help the the people who are, the root cause, what's causing people to turn to fentanyl, they turn their focus on immigration and things like that. And yeah, I just wanted to see if you were kind of on the same page of noticing that the talk is there, but the funding is just still not there. And I feel like as an organization, we should be holding feet to fire to bring light to that.
Absolutely. Definitely agree. And it's really sad how mental health is seen as the cause for issues such as like mass shootings and school shootings. But like you said, nothing is being done about it. And conversations like that causes more stigma and harm to people who are experiencing mental health crises. So that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up.
Wow. Yeah, thank you so much for all this. And I love that it's being recorded. What I will say is that folks, don't forget that kind of how it goes from here is that we have this open discussion until 8 o'clock. After that, we stop the recording, and then we still have a little, Q&A, or if folks want to, like, need anything that they need to share still. But with that, I would love to just kind of open it for any thoughts on this and to further discuss.
Just to let y'all know, I do have to hop off around 8 due to something I'm doing right after this. But if there are any more questions that I was not able to answer during this meeting, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. I'm very active on there. I'm also active on Instagram. I think this organization tagged me, so yeah, feel free to message me on there. I am always open to questions. And Anna, I will be messaging you right after this meeting to connect you with Lost Team programs for that parent you're talking to me about.
Hey, Ruth, would you like to go ahead and put your email on the chat, so maybe people might want to email you some more questions so you can respond to them a little bit faster like that?
Absolutely.
I appreciate you.
Now.
Thank you, Miss Ruth.
Yes.
Now let's go back to normal, regular discussion. Mr. Chair, do we have anything else that we need to discuss at the moment?
Well, not so much that we need to discuss, but it is just kind of like updates for folks. I think it's almost a good segue that Stephen brought up the policy, right? As some of you know, Taylor and I have been doing a lot of work with FCNL, Friends Committee for National Legislation, based in Washington, D.C., who is a Quaker group who has, Taylor can probably speak better about this than me, but it has focused often on advocating for peace, and they often call it expanding their umbrella. And the issue that has been front and center in the past year has been Native American Indigenous rights, starting with the healing, right? Truth and healing. We need to acknowledge what happened. We need to acknowledge the land. We need to acknowledge the suffering in order for us to then heal it. So I believe the first steps would be for us to push for that legislation. And I love that we're connecting it right away with money, because that's how America moves. And if we want to really change something right here, we cannot just be taking money from Texas. We need money federally. So I believe, I say all that to say that in March, we will be joining the Spring Lobby Week, which will focus on truth and healing. I think, I don't know, Taylor, if you don't mind just sharing a bit, of what we'd be going for, but we're hoping to create, as of right now, 2 delegations. One that can be focusing on Austin area and San Antonio and anything nearby, and then one that can be in the DFW area. And of course, open for folks to also create a delegation, work with us in getting particularly those most impacted by the schools, by the policy, by really all this harm, to be there front and center, sharing their story.
Yeah, thank you, Rojo. And just to chime in real quick, so this bill is the Truth and Healing Commission on Indian Boarding School Policies in the U.S. Act. I will post a link for it here in just a second. But I actually I spent a year with FCNL advocating for this bill. It still has not been fully passed through Congress, so we're still working on it. And this this bill does a lot of things, but it would create a commission to really address the issue of boarding schools in the U.S. Sort of like listen to communities, help with things like repatriation and just documenting things and like figuring out a lot of the things that are still unknown that, like we know the atrocities that happened, but a lot of these records are still like within these individual schools or those organizations. Anyway, and so the commission would also create recommendations for Congress on how to move forward in a more practical, like real way to help Native and Indigenous communities. So yeah, the Spring Lobby Weekend is going to be a few days where a bunch of people meet up in DC. We learn about the policy, about how to meet with your representatives and things like that, and then actually go and meet with these offices and try and encourage their support for this bill. So sorry if that was a little bit long-winded, but I'll go ahead and drop a link about this bill. And yeah, definitely open to any questions that y'all may have.
I'm so sorry, I was awake. Yes, go for it, Al.
I was actually waiting for Taylor to give me permission though, so you're okay, Ro. When y'all go up to, you form these committees to go up to DC, are you going to have people like within the constituencies of the people you talk to these people, or are you going to find people who you feel might be more willing to, vote positively and kind of try to push them over the line? Or
so the beauty of Spring Lobby Weekend is that it's like hundreds of people from across the country. And so, oh, bye, Ruth. Everyone is only meeting with their own representative. So ideally, all of these offices across the country would be getting, sorry, words are escaping me. They'd be hearing about this bill and like sort of receiving this pressure. So yeah, it's not necessarily targeted, but just an overall sort of pressure, if that makes sense.
And I will say, Al, that we often use the term that everyone can be a lobbyist, because if Big Pharma can have, 3 lobbies for every congressperson, we can sure at least have a few folks show up and advocate for a Truth and Healing Commission. I will also add on to it that it's beyond just this bill. It's really sharing your story to make sure that a lot of these representatives do things like putting these acts on file, or recognizing them in Congress and beyond that. We really think we can advocate for a lot of our people to be represented in things like the Interior, Departments of Interior, and I believe that especially having Deb Haaland, appointed to it, can then expand to also hiring and make sure that we're creating these opportunities for Native American, Indigenous folks at the national and state level.
And I guess last thought on that is just as Rojo mentioned, we would love to have as many of you guys or anyone else that you think might be interested joining us. So please feel free to reach out to either me or Rojo if you're interested or have any questions or comments or anything like that. This is, I don't know the date off the top of my head, but March of next year.
Would this be in person or over Zoom?
So the past couple of years, I do believe that there's been a hybrid option, but in person, ideally. Yeah. And there are fundraising opportunities available. I think the idea of the different delegations is that those delegation leaders help organize different types of fundraising and things like that. So hopefully it's as little out of pocket for everyone as possible.
Awesome. Well, I think we're wrapping it up at 8 o'clock. Secretary, anything that I'm missing that we should wrap up with? Any update for folks?
So we don't have, yep, I'm on, okay. We don't have any meeting in December. And so our next general membership meeting will be January 21st. Also, Martin gave me the heads up that the interest form for delegates to the El Paso convention has been sent out by TDP. I don't know if I can quickly track down the form for tonight, but I could probably send that out in an email for everyone. So keep an eye on your email over the next couple of days. And but everyone who was delegates in the past, we'd love you to come back and be delegates again for and join us at the caucus convention in El Paso. And if you have not been a delegate in the past, definitely sign up as showing interest to be one. So to be a delegate to the state party, you need to not only vote in the upcoming primary election in the Democratic Party primary, you then also need to vote in the election and attend your either your county convention or your congressional district convention. Some smaller rural county parties will select their delegates at their county convention. Other larger cities, I've noticed they do it differently, and they have plenty of seats to just sign up, and there hasn't really been a selection process. And for example, I'm in Harris County, and so they just seem to take anybody who is willing to go. So definitely sign up for that form so that you start getting updates about the convention. And that's all I have. So go ahead, Rojo.
Thank you so much. I'm giving a big breath because with that, I say thank you all so much for joining. In a way, I officially end, I make the motion to end the call. And also, it's just like opening it up for folks to then say how you feel, how you are, any closing remarks. Anyone?
Before we do that, Rojo, I'd like to find out to see if we have anybody here from the indigenous people of the Coastal Bend. Because I know I did send them an invite. Want to find out if we have anybody from the indigenous of the Coastal Bend with us. I guess we don't.
And I was going to share in the chat, but yeah, we're kind of basically ending the recording now and then the call for folks that have to head out. But then, if anyone wants to stay and then just finish up stuff, we can. I know I share already the information for the form. We can share that as well once we create a bit more of the planning, right, Taylor? And of course, if anyone wants to take their neighborhood or their area to this national thing, they can. We'll also I'm sure we can send the link for Martin and what they share. And if I encourage you again, if you have any events in your area or that you know of related to Native American Indigenous issues, please share them with us. I know I'll be sharing with y'all the one in, rethinking Thanksgiving. Thank you all so
Also-
much. Bye.
Rojo, before we do that, remember everybody,
Yep.
there is a powwow in Corpus Christi. If anybody wants to go, it's on December the 2nd at the Coastal Bend. If anybody wants to go, we need to remind everybody of that and of one over there. And I don't know, Stephen, do you all have anything coming up with MMIW?
No, we're taking December off, so we'll keep everyone posted. But we're slowing everything down in December.